The fall of 1960 was dominated by politics. The DePauw campus hosted a debate between Matthew Welsh, a Democratic candidate for Indiana governor, and Richard Ristine, a Republican running for lieutenant governor and 1941 Wabash graduate. A contest that people still talk about was the buzz of the nation. And on November 8th, as DePauw students gathered in the Union Building to watch results on television, their fellow Americans elected John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States. 4 days later, it was time for another decision. Would DePauw keep the Monon Bell, or would Wabash reclaim it at home? With 3:54 left in the game, leading 13-6, the Little Giants fumbled on their own 45-yard line. The Tigers drove the field, and with just 28 seconds left to play, on a 3rd and goal from the 2, quarterback John Rubish pitched to Dan Blunt, who took the ball in for a score. That made it 13-12. DePauw coach Tom Mont, seen here in a different game, turned to the crowd and signaled with his hands. Should we go for 1 or for 2?
He may have already decided what he was going to do, but he sort of turned it over to, let the students think that he was turning it over to them.
The crowd didn't want to see a second consecutive tie, and Mont rolled the dice. The Tigers lined up as if they were going to kick, but Rubish grabbed the snap and took it across the goal line for a 1-point win. Mont was given a victory ride by his players, and a Monon Bell legend was born. Ever since 1955, this arrow pointed to the location of the Monon Bell. And in 1961, as DePauw's Union Building celebrated its 10th anniversary, the Tigers were hopeful they could throw water on the Little Giants' hopes once again and keep the bell for a 6th straight year. With DePauw's team as reliable as a team of mules in recent years on the last Saturday of the season, the marching band was giddy on game day. Even the cheerleaders seemed to be saying, "Bring it on." Yes, it's easy to get carried away by this rivalry. 25 cents bought this program on the way into Blackstock Stadium. On the way out, Wabash had to think about what might have been. The Little Giants had 8 more first downs than DePauw and produced more total offense, but 2 drives inside the 10-yard line produced no points. And DePauw took an early lead and never looked back. Quarterback Ed Myers scored one of DePauw's 3 TDs, and Coach Tom Mont received another victory ride as the Tigers completed their first winning season since 1957. Wabash at 5-2-1 had the better record than 4-4 DePauw as the 1962 contest kicked off, and it looked like that would translate to a victory for the Little Giants early. This run on their first drive set up a touchdown, and the home team took a 10-0 lead into the locker room. This nifty graphic is on the Wabash game film. The movie also displays a halftime show that certainly wasn't sanctioned by either side. The second half was different from the beginning. DePauw, which wore white jerseys in the first stanza, changed to black tops at the break.
And we come out in the second half, and they're all wet out there in the mud and the grime. And we're coming out in these new shiny black jerseys, and the Wabash coaches are excited. They don't think we can do this. And you can see the rule books, they're slumming through the rule books, and of course, it was all legitimate.
The Tiger offense had legitimacy too. This is the first of 9 straight pass completions thrown by DePauw senior quarterback Jim Minahan. The result of this play, a touchdown pass to Sam Chatton, is not clear from the film, but he caught it. It was now a 10-6 game. The try for 2 was broken up by the goal post. The intended receiver was down for a while. Early in the fourth quarter, in another play out of camera range, Minahan found Eric Christman in the end zone. Dick Dean booted the extra point. It was, for the Little Giants, one that went to the dogs. In fact, this hound almost wound up being part of a late play. The coaches would shake hands as DePauw kept the bell for an 8th straight year, and Tiger coach Tom Mont enjoyed yet another victory ride. This 38-yard field goal by Dick Dean gave DePauw all it would need in the 1963 Classic, but the scoring continued with a 1-yard touchdown run by Todd Eberle before halftime and an 11-yard third-quarter touchdown pass from Bruce Mackey to Jeff Lortz. The guys from Greencastle finish with a 5-4 record and hold on to the Monon Bell for a 9th consecutive year. In 1964, as Beatlemania consumed America, September brought the Fab Four to Indiana. They clowned around on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's golf course, met the State Fair Queen, and played 2 concerts to screaming crowds at the State Fairgrounds.
On behalf of all of the State Fair Board and all the good guys from WIFE, may I present the Beatles!
It had been a hard day's night for Wabash fans. The Monon Bell had been in DePauw's possession for 9 straight years. It was also a presidential election year. The son of candidate Barry Goldwater and a freshman senator named Birch Bayh both spoke at DePauw. On to the day of decision in Crawfordsville. This short pass from Bruce Mackey to Chuck Byram wound up being a 55-yard gainer and set up the day's first score. A few plays later, as the second quarter began, Bill Alcott capped the 99-yard drive with a 2-yard run. A nifty fake by Mackey created a hole and a 4-yard touchdown gallop. It was 14-0 Tigers. That was the tally as the halftime gun sounded, but Wabash showed life in quarter number 3. Little Giant fullback Alan Anderson plunged in, and a 2-point conversion made it 14-8. Another TD and a 2-point play, not captured on film, gave Wabash a 15-14 advantage. As he drops back for a pass, DePauw's Mackey finds no one open and takes matters into his own hands. 24 yards later, he had reached the end zone virtually untouched. A gutsy decision by Coach Tom Mott to go for 2 paid off. It gave DePauw a 7-point lead. Wabash scored a fourth-quarter TD and opted for 2, and the win. Anderson tried to take it in from the right, the play that worked for the touchdown, but cornerback Todd Eberle stopped him just shy of the goal line. And the headline in the DePauw says it all. Yeah. The 1965 Monon Bell is best remembered for what happened before the game was played. DePauw President William Kerstetter fell for one of the series' all-time great pranks when he agreed to meet with someone claiming to be a Mexican dignitary. It turns out the visitor was none other than Wabash student Jim Shanks, who received a guided tour of the DePauw campus, including a peek at the Monon Bell, which was in an up-till-then secret location. Shanks passed the inside information along to his classmates, and soon the bell was in Crawfordsville. With a strong nudge from the Wabash administration, the Little Giants returned the trophy to DePauw the day before the 1965 game, but trucks from each school were ready on game day in case another transfer would be needed. Wabash came in with a 6-2 record. DePauw was a polar opposite 2-6, but earned high marks for its goalpost decorations, and the campus was still buzzing after a concert by the Isley Brothers featuring their young guitarist Jimi Hendrix. In the 72nd battle for the bell, Wabash took an early lead and never looked back. Tailback John May rushed for 137 yards, and 4 turnovers doused any Tiger hopes for victory. As their fans hoisted sombreros, the Little Giants reclaimed the bell legitimately for the first time in 10 years and regained a 1-game edge in the all-time series. The agony of the 1966 football season was apparent on the face of this DePauw player. The Tigers struggled through the campaign and had a 2-6 record heading into Monon Bell Saturday. On the other hand, Wabash was 4-3-1 and in possession of the prize for the first time since 1955. It looked like a repeat as the Little Giants led the entire game, and even the DePauw mascot was losing hope as time went by. It was 7-6 Wabash after the Tigers scored and missed the extra point. and it looked to be a Little Giants victory until, with a minute 21 left, DePauw got the ball back and drove the field. And the expression on the face of Wabash assistant coach Ernie Frisch says it all. With 28 seconds to go, DePauw's Tim Feemster, who had missed a 40-yard field goal attempt in the first quarter, was good from 22 yards out. Ecstasy on the DePauw sidelines as the bell returned to Greencastle. After the close shave of the year before, and as Frank Sinatra's Tony Rome opened in theaters across America, the Monon Bell had been missing for almost a year. As the 1967 game day approached, a UPI story traced the theft to 7 DePauw students. Remember, DePauw had the bell. They said if certain tools were brought on game day, the bell could be recovered. DePauw came into the big game at 6-1-1. A win would give the Tigers their best season since 1951, and this early run looked promising for the home squad. Wabash, on the other hand, was 1-7 and a 3-touchdown underdog, according to the Indianapolis Star. But turnovers can change everything in a bell game, and DePauw coughed the ball up 7 times on this afternoon. The scoreboard still showed goose eggs in the third quarter, but this DePauw fumble turned out to be a game changer. Wabash recovered, and a few plays later, Mike Henry takes it in from 2 yards out. And look here, the visitors' bench goes wild. There was some other action that didn't amount to points. The teams got into it shortly after the scoring play. And it was around this same time that the bell, which had been buried in the north end of Blackstock Stadium, was unearthed. As the game neared its conclusion, you could barely tell the home team from the visitors. Mud made Wabash's jerseys interchangeable with their rivals, and this DePauw player definitely needed the Maytag man. With time running out, a desperate Tiger heave. It led to the day's 4th interception in a game where DePauw completed only 6 passes. And as time expired, things got out of hand once again. The mud-covered Little Giants left Blackstock Stadium victorious, and a Wabash truck collected the now recovered Monon Bell, parading it past the visitors' stands for all to see. Soon another winter would arrive, along with questions about what will the Bell game be like next year. The fall of 1968 was busy at DePauw with the opening of a new women's dorm, Hogate Hall, an Old Gold concert by Stan Getz, and it was a presidential election year. At a time when the local bar had a soft drink sign and call waiting was still several years away, Bowman Jim received an important delivery from the postman. A message for Tom Mont and his coaching staff, postmarked November 5th, read, "Don't worry about Indiana State, that game doesn't count. Get ready for Wabash. They beat you 7-0 last year because you wasted time preparing for Indiana State." It added ominously, "Don't forget your job depends on beating Wabash." It was signed a very influential alumnus with money. And there were other pressures. California's Fresno Bee, which had a listing of game day predictions, had DePauw, which was 5-3, winning 32-13. 11 days later, with the all-time series tied, was the day of decision, and the guy they called the Pot was ready to take charge. Late in the first quarter, DePauw sophomore quarterback Roy Pottinger connected with Scott Ralston on a 19-yard pass. It set up a quarterback sneak a few plays later that gave the Tigers a 6-0 lead. With 11:33 left in quarter number 2, Wabash signal caller Dave Knott found Steve Mihalko in the corner of the end zone, making it 7-6 home team. DePauw's John Sacramento made this 20-yard field goal before halftime, and the teams went to the locker room with the guys in black and gold leading 9-7. It became a 5-point lead after Sacramento made a 34-yarder late in the third. The Little Giants were about to get the ball back late in the game when they were called for roughing the punter here. DePauw kept possession and made hay, sealing the contest when fullback Bill Holton plowed in from 1 yard out with 1:37 left to go. DePauw ran a record 88 offensive plays and held the ball for almost 41 minutes. Yes, influential alumnus, like the Postal Service, they delivered. In July of 1969, man landed on the moon for the first time. 2 months later, Abbey Road, the last album the Beatles recorded together, was released. And college football celebrated its 100th year in 1969, a fact that was celebrated on postage stamps and a billboard alongside 231 in Greencastle, the road that connects the two colleges. Game day programs even had a message from the president. The Indianapolis Star saw Wabash as the favorite that fall. It noted that Mike Henry was running wild, gaining 1,235 yards as the state's leading rusher. The paper pointed out that DePauw had beaten St. Joseph's, a team Wabash lost to, but the Little Giants had beaten Ohio Wesleyan, Wheaton, and Butler, teams that all trounced DePauw. Here's a pregame shot of Blackstock Stadium. Conditions would have been better for a cross-country ski outing. You'll notice as the camera pans that the scoreboard is on, yet there's no activity in the parking lot. It was later described as a shivering crowd of 2,000. The Little Giants struck first, Henry with a 1-yard plunge. With 6:30 left in the first quarter, he had 144 yards on the day on 43 carries. The home team got on the scoreboard when DePauw's Jim Posiak hit a 28-yard field goal with 11:43 left to go in the first half. It was now 7-3. In the third quarter, a big play for the home team. DePauw senior quarterback Ron McBride connects with Scott Ralston on a 39-yard strike, setting up a 2-yard touchdown run 6 plays later by sophomore Doug Maple. DePauw was up 10-7. In the fourth quarter, with Wabash threatening, Mark Dinwiddie intercepts a Little Giant pass at the goal line. And with 91 seconds left in the game, McBride, playing in his last college contest, scampered 13 yards right up the middle for the TD that iced it. It was 2 straight bell wins for DePauw, and the quarterback was named the game's MVP.